citing his admiration for the 25th President of the United States, William McKinley, never on the Mount Rushmore of anybody's list. Donald Trump says he's going to be the tariff warrior. He's going to have tariffs that are non-negotiable. He's going to impose tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China, which total $1 trillion of trade and 40% of our imports. He's going to do it all at the same time, and they are non-negotiable. Except they are negotiable, except both Canada and Mexico already got the better of Donald Trump in the negotiations and the bargaining over some ridiculous justification by Donald Trump that he's trying to stop fentanyl trafficking to come through the United States. And China has already said, sure, we can absorb the 10% tariff. Can you absorb a 15% tariff on oil, on coal, on farm equipment? Let's find out. What is this? Some sort of like a thought experiment, except playing with real human lives? I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF. I'm at the intersection of law, politics, trade, and the financial markets once again. So who got the better of the 3-day, 24-hour trade war? Canada and Mexico and China. No doubt. Donald Trump said, whoa, I was going to impose a 25% tariff on Canada and on Mexico. But good news, everybody, I'm not going to do it. I had a couple of phone calls with both of them, and they're both agreeing to do some silly performative artwork down at the borders of Canada and Mexico to stop illegal immigration and the spread of fentanyl. And yay for us. And China, yeah, I'm going to let that one go forward. But I'm going to have a phone call with the president of China later this week. All right. You know, this kind of erratic, chaotic, inhumane approach to our economic policy just makes you and me more insecure by the day. Let's look at Canada, for example. Everybody thought Trudeau, because he lost the government, was going to be a paper tiger against Donald Trump. He's worse for Trump now that he's lost than before. He's got nothing to lose, and he's got the full support of the Canadian people behind him, as they should. So in Canada, for instance, get this. Donald Trump said the tariff was non-negotiable until it was negotiable. He said the tariff on Canada is now off for at least a month because Trudeau is agreeing to help do the interdiction of the fentanyl trade into the United States, which led to about 700,000 overdoses in America. It is a problem. I'm not trying to minimize the problem. Except the amount of fentanyl that ends up coming through Canada. Listen to these numbers. They caught 42 pounds of fentanyl came through Canada. 21,000 pounds of fentanyl came through Mexico. So does Canada have a fentanyl problem? J.D. Vance said out loud, he's our vice president apparently, purportedly. He said out loud, I like Canada. I got Canadian friends, but I can't allow the fentanyl trade to come through the porous border of Canada any longer. Them taking advantage of us is over. 42 pounds of fentanyl. I mean, like one suitcase full of fentanyl through Canada. And they don't have an immigration problem coming. There's not a porous border in Canada. Has anybody gone to Canada in the Trump administration? I have, right? It's one of the few countries where you can check into America on the other side of the border because we have U.S. Border Patrol in Canada. So you've got U.S. Border Patrol that's actually operating in Canada at the airport and other places. You've got the Canadian government and the Royal Mounted Police doing their thing. And as a result, there are very few what they call interactions between law enforcement in Canada and people who are undocumented trying to come across. That's Canada. I mean, maybe you have an argument for trying to get Mexico to do more, but Canada? And screw our relationship strategically, where we get all of our imported electric and oil comes from Canada. All of our natural resources that we need to build our own products, all of our rare earth minerals that we need and metals that we need for our own products and for military purposes from Canada. And we're going to piss off Canada, pee all over Canada, call it our 51st state, insult their sovereignty, insult their national pride. For what purpose? Erratic, chaotic, circling the drain 2 weeks in. Those are the hallmarks of the Trump administration. It's so bad with his application of the 25th President McKinley on tariffs, who, by the way, saw the folly of his own tariff program and stopped doing it that way. It's so bad that Wall Street is looking at the Trump administration and saying it's not fair for business. It's not business friendly. I thought that was the very reason people voted Republican, is because they're business friendly. 2 weeks in, JP Morgan and other analysts are saying not business friendly. Not erratic tariff policy that makes absolutely no sense being implemented by people, small-minded people who don't understand macro issues. Look at the people who Donald Trump put around him to make economic decisions, besides himself. Let's start with him. A failed business person who bankrupted his company six times, and lost money, leading to a bankruptcy, running an American casino. Okay? That's him, with a $500 million, almost $500 million fraud judgment against him for how bad of a business he is. And every business he's ever touched, except for all the stuff tied to his presidency and grifting, failed. So he's not great at macroeconomics. You know, he was a small family office, middling real estate developer of no consequence in New York. Okay. I practice in New York. I work for a large real estate brokerage in New York. Nobody knew Donald Trump for that. They knew him from the celebrity, from slapping his name and license agreements on other people's buildings, but not for developing anything from a hole in the ground up, vertical. No. I can name for you the top real estate construction companies and development companies in the world, and he's not even on the first page or the second page of that. So take him out of the mix of knowing how the world economy works. Okay? That's not the same thing as cutting a deal for your family business in Dubai or in Serbia or Slovenia or wherever you're at. That's one. Two, Steve Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. I don't know. He ran a hedge fund. So he knows how to make money for a group of people that gave him money, who are, qualified investors and billionaires and that kind of thing. So he ran a small hedge fund. If it disappeared tomorrow, it would have zero impact on the American economy. If his hedge fund, poof, went up in smoke, other than pissed off investors, it would matter not a whit to the enormity of the American economy. So he's never done macro things. He's bet against the government in a number of different ways. He's worked for George Soros. I get it. He's done counter investing. That doesn't qualify him. Commerce Secretary. Ran a family office. Made billions of dollars running a family office. Invest in ways that are inconsistent with macroeconomics, right? Counter investing, if you will. Took advantage of a lot of different things. SPACs, investment in Greenland. You got it. Very self-interested. Goes on CNBC and brags about some other new investment he's thinking about. That's not a global thinker. That's not a Janet Yellen or a Jay Powell of the Federal Reserve or a proper Treasury Secretary, an economist that understands how things work, how you put them together. Narrow, self-interested, blinders on. That's who's flying this plane. No pun intended, considering we've had 3 major tragedies while Donald Trump's been president. So commerce, Treasury, Donald Trump, trade representatives, all like tariff hawks. We've never in the history of America used a tariff policy in order to generate enough income and fees to fund our $3 trillion national budget. There's not enough tariffs in the world, not enough countries in import and export to tax, unless it's at 1,000,000% to replace good old-fashioned income tax and other things. And then Donald Trump is draining off other money of the American wealth to set up sovereign wealth funds, which is a fancy way of saying he's going to take your money and money of the American government and put it into a fund to buy TikTok. Is that what everybody voted for? Save TikTok by using your taxpayer dollars to give them a bailout in order to reward friends of Donald Trump who invested in TikTok? So tariff policy, terrible. Okay. Canada buys another 30 days to redouble its efforts to put a ring fence around its economy and protect itself and be able to fire back, like the Ontario premier who's ripping up contracts with Elon Musk and says, we're not open for business with Americans because they can focus on the service economy of technology, service, AI, management, law firms, consulting firms that are all heavily American and ban them from Canada without a heavy tariff. They can tariff service while we tariff goods and utilities. So it's just an example, this last 24 hours, of this erratic thing. Let me turn to China quickly. First of all, we're driving all of our allies in Central and South America and Mexico and Canada into the hands of the Chinese and the Russians. They are rubbing their hands in glee that they have an opportunity to step in and grow their sphere of influence around the world because we have withdrawn. When we kill the U.S. aid program under the Secretary of State, the reason it's in the State Department is because it's diplomacy by another means, helping people who are impoverished, who have famine, who needs roads and bridges and reproductive health and everything else around the world because nobody else is doing it, is diplomacy. It shows you what it means to be an American and the American brand of democracy. It helps us with our sphere of influence. It helps our businesses who are all supporting these countries. When you cut off aid to foreign countries and foreign groups, there's an American job behind that, and you've just killed it. That's why you don't do it. Donald Trump did it because Elon Musk said, I don't have all those contracts. I want some of those. Let's kill that program. It's fraudulent. Really? So when you kill U.S. aid, China steps in and says, we'll build your road, we'll build your tunnel, we'll build your hydroelectric plant, we'll turn your desert into green pastures for farming. We'll do that for you. Just remember us. We're the Chinese, or fill in the blank Russian, or fill in the blank somebody else. That's why it's in the diplomatic corps. Donald Trump doesn't understand diplomacy. He's just caveman, big stick. Okay, that's never worked. It won't work now and never will work. And he's surrounded himself with people who in the area of sophisticated business analysis are sorely lacking. Just blinders, self-interested, self-conflicted blinders. That's it. That's what we're watching. So the Chinese are like, we can absorb 10%. 10%, that's like water off a duck's back. How about 15% on, we'll see your 10%, we'll raise you 5%. How about 15% on your coal, on your natural gas? Oop, there goes those industries. And let's do, while we're at it, let's do 10% on your farm equipment. Because you like to send all your Deere tractors and your McCormick Reapers over to China, forget it. Done. Well, we'll focus on our equipment. Again, pushing people into the hands of China. China can absorb it. Their economy is pretty stable and supported by the Chinese government in a way that Donald Trump wants to take the U.S. out of the U.S. government. Donald Trump, phony trade war ended in disaster for America and a better for Mexico and Canada. I'll continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF. Do me a favor, take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. We're so close to 500,000. I can almost taste it. 500,000 free subscribers. So help us get there in the next 30 days would really be appreciated. The bigger we get, the more your voice is heard. Until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popak. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.